So it came out that Bucks wide receiver Mike Evans said on the NFL Network that he was thinking about joining the Chiefs and Texans. And we talked about this. We're like, well, Mike Evans he was kind of disgruntled there in Tampa Bay between the organization. You know, there was contract issues and contract extension. So he was just going to play this season out and see what happened. And remember, we got Mike Evans that we just found out if he gets another 1,000-yard season this season, he will tie Jerry Rice with 11 straight as the only two guys to have 11 straight seasons with 1,000 yards receiving in each season. So he was talking about he was going to go with the Chiefs and Texans. Just imagine if he would have went to either of those ones. I think you and I were thinking he was going to go to the Texans, kind of be that veteran guy that went into that young core and kind of maybe help solidify that offense even more. But ultimately, as we know, he ended up staying in Tampa Bay, and he eventually signed a 2-year, $41 million deal. Now, we always say that, I think it's easy for fans to sit here and say, oh, well, it's just about the money. Where can he get the most money? And that's where he's going to go. And maybe he'll take a little less if he wants to try to win a ring or things like that. But we don't talk about personal lives. I think we forget that these guys are human. They have a personal life. And he said, and this is what I thought was interesting. I want to get your take on this. He says Evans could have became a free agent, but him and his wife both wanted to stay in Tampa Bay and eventually agreed on a 2-year, $41 million deal. And I was just sitting there thinking, I go, that's something that people don't think about. Like, you have to have that conversation with your wife. It's like, hey, I know it's a lot of money, but we've got to go move to Houston for a year or two while I finish out my career. Or we can stay here in Tampa, and you figure out what the difference in money is. And obviously, if he was only going to get like a $5 million deal from Tampa, he probably would have been like, well, I can go get $20 million over here. So then it's like, yeah, financially, that makes sense. But if the money's pretty much the same, then you don't got to up and move your life, which you've been there for over a decade now. It makes sense. So what do you think about all this?
Yeah, man. And also, I think it would be a much different scenario had he not already won a ring down there. He's already got his ring and all that. We know this guy's a future Hall of Famer, obviously done some things. First player ever to have 10 straight 1,000-yard seasons coming into the league. You're talking one away from tying Jerry Rice for the most consecutive ever and all that stuff.
Who do you think misses Tom more, him or me?
What's that?
Who do you think misses Tom more, him or me?
That's real close, man. It's hard for me to think anybody misses Tom more than you, outside of like maybe Bill Belichick. But yeah, not Mike right here. But I was glad to see us finally pay him. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think we do forget that sometimes these guys are humans, and there are other human beings that are not playing on the field that actually factor into these decisions, like his wife. And I don't know if they have children or not, or if they're planning on it. But like I said, you've already set up a life down there in South Florida and all that, and to move away for a couple of years. If you're ring chasing, that's one thing. But, he's already got that down there. And
or money chasing. If you're money chasing.
Yeah, or money chasing. And he don't need either one of those things, So it doesn't
and he's
really
still got $20 million a year,
Yeah. Yeah, you can't be that upset about it, bro. So, no. And I see Bold down there saying that, if you're a Texan, would you prefer Evans or Diggs? And maybe I'm a bit biased, but also just knowing football, man, I prefer Mike Evans over Stephon Diggs. I always have.
I can't even. The only knock I would put on Evans would be injury history. But I mean, you got that with Diggs too. So it's like, I think I'd rather have him because he's less of a head case than Diggs, and he's less of a diva, and he seems more of like a leader out there than
right.
Diggs is.
More of a veteran guy. Yeah, no, I mean, he can, and I don't want to throw too much shade at Stephon Diggs. We have seen a lot of the.
Oh, I'll throw all the shade. Go win something, okay? Win something.
Well, it's not really off. I hate to say off the field issues because it's not really that. It's more locker room issues. It's actually him. He's still there doing his job. He's still putting the work in, all that stuff. But he does create some unnecessary drama in the locker room that winds up affecting the team negatively. And you've never really seen that out of Mike, man. He's always,
which you don't want with a bunch of young guys, not even just in the wide receiver core. Young guy. I mean, you got a young quarterback. You got young everything there in the Texans.
Right, and I'm hoping D'Amico Ryans down there in Houston is a guy that's kind of a no-nonsense kind of guy. Comes from, he's played a lot of big-time football, coached big-time football, done all that thing, and he's kind of a no-nonsense kind of guy. He's a player's coach, but at the same time, I don't think he's going to allow that stuff to kind of leak in and poison his locker room. But if I'm just simply choosing between Mike Evans and Stephon Diggs based off the lack of drama inside the locker room that I've gotten from Mike Evans, and you're going to get numbers out of both of them, I just, like I said, maybe I'm a little biased, but I'm a Mike Evans guy.
Yeah, and I think you're 100% right. Had he not won a ring, I think he would be in Kansas City right now.
Yeah, I think so. But I mean, that's where everybody goes. That's where you go. I'm just saying they're winning about at least one every 2 years if you go the last decade. So I mean, they're gonna get there, man. And it gives you a shot to do it. But once again, if you're not if you're not ring chasing all this stuff, I think it's just easier to keep your life intact here. Because let's be honest, how many more years? Probably 2 more, maybe 3 more for Mike, and then let's call it a career and go on and do whatever else we want to do.
Yep. So good move by him. And Bold says, I've lived in Kansas City, Houston, and Tampa. He made the right choice. Well, there you have it, folks. I mean, but the main thing I wanted to point out here was it's not always just about money or rings. You got to think about personal lives. And these athletes, which we forget, they have a life outside of the sport.